Blade, and I'm the editor, creator, and producer of what you're watching right now, Blade Talk. If you are new here, welcome, and you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor, hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. So, with Hanukkah coming, I thought I would dive a little deeper into the meaning of Hanukkah, what it is, and give people a better understanding of what was going on at that time. So if you're interested, let's hit that intro and let's begin. Okay, so with Hanukkah a few weeks away, I got my Hanukkah set up. My daughters are excited. It's one of their favorite holidays. I saw fit to actually explain in depth what Hanukkah means to us today, what it represents, and what was going on at that time. So if you're like me, you'll stay away from anyone with the title The Great at the end of their name. But ego trip aside, Alexander the Great was actually pretty nice to the Jews. He's the only one that conquers Jerusalem in 332 BCE that doesn't order the city to be completely destroyed. The Jewish community loves him for it and even builds federal buildings in his honor. But upon his death 11 years later, a fight breaks out between Alexander's generals over his succession. On one side, we have Seleucus, who establishes a dynasty in the area now known as Syria. On the other side, we have Ptolemy, who establishes rule in Egypt. They battle for control of the Jewish state of Judea and changing leadership at least 5 times over the next 30 years. Eventually, Egypt wins rulership and holds the title for the next 100 years until around 198 BCE, when Antiochus III reconquers Judea for the Seleucids. Now, under Antiochus III, Judea is still its own autonomous province under Jewish rule. It's under watch, but in control, kind of like a teenager with a new driver's license. The high priest acts as both religious and political leader. But similar to the areas of Egypt and Syria under the Macedonian Empire, Greek Hellenist culture becomes a prominent part of the conquered people of Judea. Many Hellenist Jews start taking Greek names, wearing Greek clothing, adhering to the language. They start worshiping Greek gods. They make Greek the language of administration and literature. Many Jewish people even begin studying the Bible in Greek, which is the ultimate sign of integration into Greek culture. Now, not all Jews are on board with this assimilationist movement's train. Many Jews felt that even though the temple still acts as the religious and political and social focal point of the province, many Jews felt that the religious capital has lost its holiness to paganism and idolatry. Non-Jewish settlers have brought their idols, and the Hellenist Jews did nothing to stop them. Now, deepening this gap with Greek culture is the succession of power from Antiochus III to his son, Antiochus IV. Now, the son is not as tolerant as his father. Under his father, the Jews actually were kind of left alone, left to our own devices. But the son is power hungry. He forces the people to assimilate and threatens death upon those who refuse. In time, even the temple begins to succumb to Greek influence. The high priesthood, which was normally passed down through Aaron's family, is taken over by a Hellenist named Menelaus, who murders the previous high priest and steals money and treasures from the temple to appease the king. Many Hellenist Jews support these maneuvers and may have even suggested them to Antiochus IV. Many traditional Jews, however, feel that the foundation of their religion is threatened. Among them are Mattathias and his family, the Hasmoneans, who leave Jerusalem to gather the seeds for Jewish resistance. Antiochus then starts to up the ante on Jewish oppression. He orders Jews to make sacrifices to Greek gods and desecrate the Sabbath. He forbids circumcisions of newborn sons. He forbids the study of the Bible and any other observance of the Torah, making these actions punishable by death. By doing this, Antiochus introduces a new type of danger to the Jewish people. Not the physical, genocidal anti-Semitism seen before, but rather a cultural anti-Semitism that threatens to destroy the Jewish religion. The biggest of these cultural threats to the Jewish people: bacon. Yep, you heard me correctly. Bacon. One man named Eliezer understands the greater danger posed by these decrees and sets an example of defiance. Antiochus himself orders Eliezer to eat a pig, which of course is a major transgression in the Jewish Bible. But Eliezer knows that any offense is a threat to his community, and even something as small as an Egg McMuffin is a symbol of humiliation that a Jew has abandoned their beliefs. So Eliezer bravely chooses to defy Antiochus. As punishment, Eliezer is tortured to death. Now, witnessing this act of defiance, another family of martyrs stands up against the king. A woman named Hannah and her 7 sons are also ordered to eat pig, but they too choose death. One by one, each of the sons are tortured and killed until Hannah suffers the same fate. Antiochus's oppression continues throughout the country, and the same decree makes its way to Mattathias and his 5 sons in the city of Moedim. A group of soldiers stand before the town and orders every Jew to sacrifice a pig to Zeus and then eat its flesh. As the villagers listen in horror, Mattathias and his sons stand before them and refuse to submit. Now, what they do differently is, instead of accepting death, they seize the soldiers and kick the altar to the ground. They stab and kill the soldiers. The Maccabees have officially started a revolt. The Hasmonean family is known today as the Maccabees because of Mattathias' son Judah, nicknamed the Maccabee, or the Hammer. Hanukkah is the story of a group of untrained Jewish warriors who fight a war of beliefs and values against the world's greatest army and empire at that time. It's truly mind-blowing. The Hasmoneans know there are almost no odds in their favor, but they also know that they don't have a choice. This is their mission, and it's up to God to decide whether they win. After the defiance, the Maccabees take up arms against Antiochus and his army. A year later, Mattathias is killed in battle, and his son Judah takes over to lead the revolt, and is he who ultimately captures Jerusalem and restores the temple in 164 BCE. Judah makes a bold move and forms an alliance with a growing empire at the time, Rome. Rome was an enemy of the Seleucids, going off that whole "the enemy of my enemy is my friend" notion. After 5 years of continued expansion and conquest, Judah is also killed in battle. When you hear about the holiday of Hanukkah, you probably think of the menorah and 8 crazy nights. As the Talmud recounts, the Jewish people reclaimed the temple from the Greeks and restored it to its glory after years of vandalism and idolatry. When they light the menorah once again, they can only find enough oil for one day. But a great miracle happens. The oil lasts much longer. 6 days to be exact. Just making sure you're paying attention. 8 days, obviously. The story of Hanukkah is arguably the most famous Jewish holiday, but there is so much more to it than people know. We may eat latkes and donuts and other oily foods that celebrate the menorah and destroy our facial pores, but we also celebrate the miracle that a small Jewish army defeating the world's superpower of its time. We celebrate the religious right for Jews to exist as Jews. So when people say that Hanukkah is the Jewish Christmas, they're incorrect. When Jews choose to celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas, they're misinformed. The story of Hanukkah and why we celebrate it is a rejection of assimilation. It is a powerful statement that says we want to stay Jewish and we reject other religious influences. People died staying true to their faith and culture. We rejected eating pig, worshiping other gods, and integration of other cultures with ours. So when you hear about a Jew that celebrates both Christmas and Hanukkah, it will be like someone celebrating the slave trade and also an end to slavery. It makes no sense. Hanukkah says we are choosing not to assimilate to others and we will remain Jewish. To celebrate other faiths' holidays is disrespectful to the Maccabees that fought and died trying to preserve the Jewish identity, and Hannah and her sons that ultimately rejected and defied orders to eat pig. That's what Hanukkah is all about. It's a rejection of assimilation. In order to stay Jewish in favor of our own cultures, traditions, holidays, we're standing firm on what we believe. That's what makes Hanukkah so special. It's not the Jewish Christmas. It's us saying that we will fight till our last breath, even though the odds are stacked against us, even though it looks as if we may get completely annihilated. We will stand with God. We will stand with our own values, our own principles. So again, when Jews try to celebrate both, try to integrate, they have the menorah in the window and the Christmas tree, it makes no sense. It truly makes no sense. Hanukkah is all about rejecting the Christmas tree, rejecting other people's religious faiths and customs, and boldly saying that we want to remain Jewish. Now, getting back to the actual story, the Hasmoneans win, and Judah's 2 brothers, Jonathan and Simeon, take leadership and begin a 129-year-long reign of Jewish independence and sovereignty in the land of Israel. They expand the borders and reinstate the position and authority of the high priest. 7 years into their Jewish sovereignty, John Hyrcanus makes coins, which was a major sign of independence in the ancient world. His son, Aristobulus, who ruled for just 1 year, bestows upon himself the title of king. 26 years after the establishment of the Jewish dynasty, the Roman Senate officially recognizes Jewish independence. The Jewish kingdom is surviving and thriving. Now, don't get too excited and comfortable because it isn't long before Jewish sovereignty is disrupted. You see, there's a major tension between the Hasmoneans and the Pharisees. Long story short, the Pharisees reject the idea of someone being a high priest and a monarch. Remember, a king must come from the tribe of Judah, and a priest must come from Aaron's line or the tribe of Levi. One person can't occupy two roles, as the Hasmoneans were trying to do. So that causes major conflict. The Sadducees comes along and a fight breaks out between the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Rome sees the opportunity for a power grab and decides to attack while they're fighting each other. Rome succeeds in conquering the Jewish kingdom and establishes a Roman state. Jewish historian Josephus writes, "Because two brothers could not get along, we lost our freedom and our liberty to Rome." Years later, we try to channel the same strength and mentality of the Maccabees to the Romans with the Bar Kokhba revolt. Martyrs like Eleazar, Mattathias, and Hannah and her sons represent the courage of Jews to defy orders and fight for their religion and culture. Even today, there are Jews that fight against anti-Semitism and assimilation to keep our religion and culture alive. So when someone says that Hanukkah is just the Jewish Christmas, they couldn't be more wrong. It's not even about the menorah. It's not about the oil. It's not about the latkes, the jelly donuts. It's not about the dreidel. It's about a group of Jews that stood firm on what they believe in and fought for their right to remain Jewish in the face of Greek culture and assimilation. We stubbornly said we are going to remain Jewish. And that's the whole beauty of the holiday itself. So I urge you to educate those that say that Hanukkah and Christmas are pretty much the same thing. Inform them. Or at the very least, share this presentation. And for Jews that celebrate both and don't see the harm in it, understand the hypocrisy of what they're doing. We are saying that we will remain Jewish to the exclusion of every other culture and religion around us. We choose to be Jewish, and people have lost their lives. People have acted bravely, showed tremendous courage, even when they're outnumbered, even when all hope is lost. And they basically said, we'll let God decide whether we stick around. But we'd rather do that than assimilate. And over 2,000 years later, we are still here. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding of the story of Hanukkah. It is one of betrayal, civil war, and revolt. A lot of bloodshed. But the cause, the underlying goal, was just for us to be Jewish. And many of us fight anti-Semitism and assimilation still today, myself included. So, if you found this presentation helpful and informative, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. Do me an even greater favor and subscribe to my channel. I always appreciate all the support that I am given. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Blade Talk. Be good to yourselves, be good to others, and until next Sunday, Shavua Tov, you all take care.